Wanna be where the sugar daddies are. I wanna see them spending their money on, what's that word again? Me.
Okay, so literally nobody asked for this, but I'm going to tell you guys a story time because I just feel like I've been through some shit. Some things have happened in my life that you can't make up. If you know, you know. So yeah, I just, woke up and I'm just like, I think I'm ready to tell you guys about my sugar daddy era. And it wasn't like a sugar daddy era. I've only had one sugar daddy. So this is just how my experience went. Will I do it again? Hit me up. No, I'm just kidding. But okay, so what had happened was there's this one website. I don't really know if I should say it, plug it in. I'm not going to, but I went on there and I was basically messaging back and forth with a bunch of sugar daddies, and I finally found one that, wait, where's my music? Okay, so whatever. So we were messaging back and forth and I was like, okay, this seems like a good one, like whatever, like let me, go ahead and shoot my shot. And it was my first time, so like I didn't know if I was gonna get kidnapped. Like I don't even do like dating apps and shit because I'm just like not about that life. And I was like, you know what, like I just want to try this out. And so we were like texting back and forth about like when we were gonna meet up and like what the transaction was. And let me just make this clear, okay? No sugar was being given, okay? It was one of those, okay? I'm not down for the whole actual sugar daddy exchange. It was like he seemed lonely and he wanted to like go out on dates and like do things, and he wanted somebody, that would be his match or whatever. And so then like I'm like, is this like legit? Like I don't know, but it took a couple, like maybe like 2 weeks of actually like texting and like planning things out, like getting to know him. I also wasn't like a psychopath and just gonna be like, okay, yeah, let's meet up, take me out on a date, take me shopping, give me money. Like I had like done research and I'm like, you gotta like dip your toes in and like play it cool. And I'm like, I'm not trying to fuck this up, especially if he got money. But don't mind me, I need a little snack for this. But okay, so we were literally had this date planned out because he wanted to go on like vacations and stuff, and he was like, do you have your passport? And I was like, low-key, I have my passport but it's expired. And he's like, okay. So he like makes up this whole plan, like itinerary for like a week of like what we're gonna do. But our first initial meetup, he was like, we're gonna renew your passport. And I was like, for real? Like, not my typical first date, but like I do need my passport renewed. And he was like, yeah, like we'll go on a Saturday, like we'll meet up at the office, we'll do your little passport, we'll go out to eat, and whatever. And like I legit, you guys, did not even think that was gonna happen. Like I don't know, it was just a lot, and I was just like, this is kind of weird, but like, should I do it? And I remember telling like my friends, and they're like, Jessica, you're insane. I'm like, yeah, but like you guys got my location, like it can't be that weird. Like I don't know, I mean, I told you guys, like I did my research, like he told me where he worked and like everything, and I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Okay, so I go on this passport date, and it's just funny. Like we go to take my pictures first because you have to like do that first before you go to the office. And we go take my pictures. I ate, like my pictures came out so cute. It was so funny because I like woke up that day super fucking early, had to beat the fuck out of my face to make sure that I slayed the pics, because the passport's like 10 years, whatever. And he was so nice. Like when I first met him, like I wasn't scared. I texted my friend, I was like, this is what I'm wearing in case I go missing. Like it was so funny. And he was nice, But homeboy talked so much, like he was such a chatterbox. And I was like, girl, because he wouldn't even let me get like a word in. So I was like, ugh, men. But it's fine, you know, I was there for money. I did what I had to do. We got the passport renewed, paid for it, took me out to dinner, slay mama. It was like this whole thing. And it's just funny because like after that, like I said, like he had like a whole like itinerary for us, like for the whole week. And like we went to like basketball games and concerts and dinners, and like it was cute. Well, what's funny though is that every single time we were like out, like a dinner for example, like the servers or like the public workers would just like look at me and like smile like they knew, but also like a blink twice if you need help kind of situation. But I was fine. And what else I don't know, it was just crazy. That was just like a crazy time. Like I just can't really believe that like I did that. But it ended up not working out with him. Like I said, like he was just like, I think because he like knew he was rich, had money, he was like getting controlling, or like he would get mad like if I couldn't hang out. Like I said, like he was lonely, like he wanted to like you just gotta be about that lifestyle. And like I was for a little bit, but then I got over it because girl, I got my own life, I got my own friends, family, and like things to do. So I'm like not trying to be like your sugar baby like 24/7. So like if you're trying to do that, by all means go for it, girl, like do it. But no, that was just an era for me. And then now it's just funny because every time I travel and I bust out my fucking passport, I'm like, wow, I ate. And I'm like, wow, this was like my sugar daddy got this for me. And I'll just always remember that. It'll be like fucking 5 years looking at my passport like, damn, I really did that. Actually, one more thing, since we're already here, like I said, I feel like embarrassing myself. I feel like I just want to tell you guys stories, more story times, because there's a lot more where that came from. There's a lot of other stories that I wanted to tell, but not for my first story time, you know, because like we gotta ease into it. So be prepared. Again, nobody asked for this. I don't give a fuck.
Story time on how one of my sugar daddies threatened to unalive my family. So this was quite a few years ago. I was still in active addiction at this time, and my parents had not given up hope on me yet, and they were actually pretty much forcing me to go to treatment. So instead of going to like actual detox or rehab, we had decided and agreed upon us going to Sedona and borrowing my dad's friend's vacation rental that was in Sedona. It kind of worked out because at the time my insurance had already used up all of my behavioral health stays, and we couldn't really afford to pay for treatment like out of pocket. And I'm not gonna lie, in my head, I thought that I would be able to get out of it somehow if I was like not in actual lockdown. Oh, was I wrong? I had actually only agreed to go because my grandma was in town from Chicago, and she basically was like, Grace, can you please go? If she wasn't there, I don't think I would have gone. I knew that we were gonna leave the next day, so I was gonna do my big one. I was hitting up just about anybody I could think of to give me some money because I was completely out of money. So at this point, I was on a certain site where you find older men. Now, I had never actually met up with somebody on the site. I was basically them by saying like, I want to know you're for real, and if you send me this amount of money, like I'll meet up with you. I had gotten a couple people to do this in the past, so I was putting the work in that night, okay? I really wanted to get just a couple $100 so that I could basically bring stuff with me to Sedona and pretend like I was detoxing, but I wasn't, which was absolutely not going to work because my parents brought drug tests with them. But anyways, if you've never been an addict, then you probably wouldn't understand this mindset, but I was gonna try anything that I could. So at this point, it was like hours before we were going, and I finally found a guy that I thought I could do this with. I was like, okay, I think I can squeeze a couple hundred out of him. So we went back and forth for a while, and eventually he's like, okay, I will send you $200 and then you have to meet up with me the next day. And I was like, okay, bet. I managed to sneak out of my house. Oh wait, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. I got the $200 out of him. At this point, I did not have a car, so there was no way I was walking from my parents' house to my dealer, which was like 25 miles. So I texted my friend that I was using with, and I was like, hey girl, like if you come drop shit off, like I'll send you the money. If you come drop it off, I will give you some of it. I remember it was nearing like 10 p.m. and she still hadn't showed up, and I was like chain smoking cigarettes. My mom was literally watching me as I smoked cigarettes outside. She finally showed up. So basically I told her to set the baggie on top of the fence and I would go smoke a cigarette. And as soon as my mom looked away, because like I said, she had hawk eyes on me through the window. As soon as my mom looked away, I would grab it and like put it in my bra or something. So that's exactly what I did. Trigger warning, I was not okay that night, okay? Because I knew it was my last night. I was not okay. I remember like me and my mom getting in like a physical altercation, and this is just so embarrassing. Thank God I'm sober now. So the next day I get in their car and we drive off to Sedona. Do you like the sound? Now, obviously, I never had any intention of paying this dude back or going to meet up with him or anything. And I knew I was going to be out of town for like the next week or so. For a little bit, I was actually pretending that I was my cousin, telling him like, oh, Grace went to rehab. Like, I'm so sorry. She'll pay you back as soon as she gets back. And he was pissed. Because like I said, it took a lot of convincing to get this guy to send me the money, like a lot of promises and everything. So now at this point, I'm like in day 3 of detox. I'm not doing well. And I fall asleep with my phone open. And my mom snatches that phone up while I was sleeping and goes through my text messages. And at this point, I hadn't even seen the text message. She had saw that he sent me a text message that night, like after I fell asleep or something, with a photo of their house, the house that we were living in, saying like, you better watch out because I'm coming for your family. And obviously I was like, holy shit, like how did this dude find out where I lived? Honestly, still to this day, I don't know how he figured it out. I'm sure he like searched my name. He knew my first name, but like somehow he figured out where I lived. And my dad had like owned this business or was like a part of this business. And he somehow found that profile and then linked it to our house. And obviously when my mom saw this, she was so upset. She was like, Grace, you are putting your family in danger. Like what the freaking hell are you doing? I remember like texting back and forth with this dude a couple more times, like, how dare you threaten my family? I'm gonna go to the police, blah, blah, blah. He had made a few more threats, basically, you know, calling me a lying bitch, blah, blah, blah. And just a side note, I can't even tell you how many people I hit up asking them to come to that Sedona house, like drive hours from Phoenix to that Sedona house to drop stuff off to me, even though I had no money. Like my plan was to somehow sneak out in the middle of the night, walk to a Chase bank, withdraw money, and somehow pull this off, which there was no way because my dad, he be carrying, okay? And he made it very clear to me, you leave this fucking house, you have anybody come to this house, like shit's not gonna be good for you, okay? But I still risked it. I was literally insane. And of course at that point, my parents took my phone. They wouldn't let me have the phone for the rest of my stay there. I did block the dude. Nothing ever came of that. I don't think we ever filed a report or anything. I can't remember. And unfortunately, I did not stay sober. I think I came back and was sober for like maybe 3 weeks, if that, and relapsed right away. I just wasn't ready. Of course, I tried to tell this to my parents, like, hey, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not gonna stay sober. Like, we're gonna get back and I'm gonna go use. And of course, that's exactly what I did. I never heard from that dude again. I continued to scam people on that website for quite a while. I obviously feel terrible for the people I did that to. It was very wrong. And even my mom was like so disgusted with me. Like, how can you do that to people? Obviously, she knows the person I am sober, and she never thought that I would, you know, fall into drugs like that and become a different person. And so as your mother, you continue to think of your children as the people they were before addiction, and it's very hard for them to separate those two. So it was very disappointing for my family to hear that I was doing stuff like that. I am very grateful to be sober every day. So yeah, that is the story time of how a sugar daddy threatened to unalive my family. I hope you guys like this story. Say hi, Stinky. I love
To tell you the craziest thing that happened to me. 2 weeks ago, I went to this coffee shop that's near campus. This random guy came up to me and he told me he really liked my glasses. But then he also said that he didn't like my shoes. And I was like, that's such a wild thing to say to someone. And then he was like, oh, it's because I designed shoes, that's why I'm so picky. And then I was like, what's your label called, you know, if you're judging me so hard? Like, I was trying to figure out if I knew his brand or not. He said a brand that I like recognized immediately, and I was kind of fangirling over him. Then we sat down and he was telling me all about the fashion industry. And then I asked him, you know, can I get your phone number? because I felt like he would be a good contact to have. So then I leave the coffee shop, I have his phone number, I send him a text, and I'm like, hey, it's the girl with the bad shoes, so he remembers who I am. And then he sent a picture of himself when he's cleaned up. Now, this should have been the first red flag, because why are you sending a picture of yourself to, like, a girl who's half your age? At that moment, I didn't think anything of it. He also mentioned that he wanted to send me shoes, so then he started sending pictures of shoes that he made to figure out, you know, what I like. And then things got a little weird. He started to get a little bit pushy. The same night when I was at my sister's Friendsgiving party, I told him I was busy, and he was like, text me after dinner. And when he sent that, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. I created a moment and shared it with my friends because I was at my sister's Friendsgiving. I didn't want to tell her because that would be such a weird thing to say, you know, when everyone else is there. So after he sent me that text during Friendsgiving, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna respond to him. That's kind of weird. Like, why are you pushing me to text you? So the next day, I still didn't respond to his message, but he still sent me messages. He told me he was heading to Bergdorf's. I didn't respond. And then he was like, oh, I'm stopping by Hermes. I got you something. I still didn't respond, even though inside I was like, what did he get me? This goes on for about a week. By the way, he's probably like 60, 70 years old. Why is he texting a 20-year-old girl like this? Every single day he spams my phone. This is where it gets really weird. He sent me this picture. This is why I hate the fashion industry, because the men are all heinous. They're all heinous. Anyways, that's my very crazy sugar daddy horror story. I need to tell you the crazy...
I have to tell y'all the story of how I almost became a sugar baby yesterday. So I was craving Moe's yesterday, right? And yes, I am a Moe's girl instead of a Chipotle girl. They practically raised me, okay? I worked there for 4 years before I got sick. I worked my way all the way up to a manager. Okay, so I walk into the store. There's one lady ahead of me. An older man taking the lady in front of me's order. He turns and looks at me in the middle of taking this lady's order, like she is talking, and he looks at me and he goes, oh my god, this man is looking at me the whole time he is taking this lady's order. Rude, right? And like yesterday, I wasn't even all glammed up. Like, my face was bare. I had cried the night before, so my eyes were like swollen, so I had to take my contacts out and I had on glasses. But anyways, so now it is my turn. He looks at me and he goes, again. Mind you, this man looks about, give him late 40s, early 50s. Yeah, we'll say that. And he's not cute at all. Not cute. And he is like, oh my god, you are beautiful. And I'm like, thank you. I'm like so weirded out at this point, because like, you old enough to be my daddy, sir. And mind you, I used to work at this very particular Moe's that I went to. He didn't know that at the time. And my manager that I used to have was in the back. Meanwhile, while this man is sitting here flirting with me, about 5 people come in behind me. Does he care? No. I tell him what I want. He messes it up the first time, so he has to throw away the aluminum foil because he's steady staring at me. Like, eye contact is strong. And then he looks at me and he's like, said, where do you work or what do you do? I'm like, I don't work. Boy, I shouldn't have said that. Before I could even get out the whole sentence, this man said, give me all your bills. I said, huh? And he was like, I'm serious, give me all your bills. And I'm sitting there like, okay. And I lied to y'all not. This man proceeds to lift up one arm just like this. He says, what does this say? And I read it. It says sugar. He lifts up the other arm. Y'all, I read the other arm. Why does it say daddy? So this man has sugar daddy tatted on his arm. Then he continues to put them together. This man has sugar daddy tatted on his arm. So the person in front of him can be able to read it straight like sugar daddy. I said, oh my gosh, this cannot be happening right now. Now it is time for me to continue to move down the line away from him, thank God. And he continues to stare me down all the way down to the register. I get to the register, he walks down there. But thank God I am saved, and my manager that used to be over me, she was in the back, she comes to the front. Saved by the bell, okay? Now me and my old manager are sitting there talking, right? And I see him in the corner of my eye, staring me down. So I'm paying for my order. He said something to my old manager about me. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I know because she said, yeah, she used to work here.
Don't tell him that. When I tell you I skirt out that parking lot so fast because I did not want him to read my tag. I got a personalized tag and no ma'am, no ma'am. Especially since my boyfriend has been beating up old men lately. That's another story for another day, but that is how I almost got a sugar daddy. But it was never gonna freaking happen. Bye, y'all.
My sugar daddy asks me for weird favors. His Tinder profile said he was 45, but he looked to be in his early 30s at most. Looking for a sugar baby. $700 weekly. No. It sounded too good to be true. But as a broke university student, I was willing to take my chances. I swiped right. The Tinder let me know it was a match. His message came seconds later. Hey there, sweetheart. I cringed at that word. I hated it. But $700 was $700. So I sucked it up and replied, hey. His name was Jack and he told me he owned his own business, although he never specified what kind of business it was. We talked for a while before he asked me for my Venmo to send the first payment. A few minutes later, I got the notification. I stared at the $700 for at least 20 minutes, expecting to wake up from a dream at any second. But it wasn't a dream. You still there? I clicked on the messages. Yeah, sorry. If you don't mind me asking, what were you looking for in return? I stared at the chat until he replied, I'm just looking for you to do a few favors for me. That sounded like it was going to be sexual to me. Like what? For example, the first thing I need you to do is pick up a delivery for me. That sounded innocent enough, but I was still expecting there to be some kind of twist. $700 to pick up a package? Come on, even I wasn't that naive. From the post office or something? No, I'll send you the address. But I'd rather not do this through Tinder. You got Kick? Or can you give me your number? Kick. What was this, 2011? I decided to give him my number instead, and he texted me the address immediately, followed by the address to his house, where I would drop the package off. I'm not home right now, but there's a key on the bottom of the blue flower pot near the door. Go inside, put the package on the coffee table in the living room. Make sure that you lock the door when you go inside of the house, and then lock it when you leave. I got my car keys and wallet and got into my car, putting the address into Google Maps. Got it, on my way. My phone buzzed as I backed out of the driveway. I'm serious. Lock the door both times, please. I thought that was a little excessive, but I promised him that I would. The house looked abandoned. It had a broken chain link fence around it with a small door that was hanging on to dear life. It stuck out like a sore thumb, surrounded by the houses that were a lot nicer in comparison to this one. You here for jack shit? I look up to see a man standing in the open doorway of the house. He took up almost the entire space, his head skimming the top of the doorframe. He was huge in height and muscles, and his entire torso was covered in tattoos. Yeah, I guess, I replied, not moving from my spot on the sidewalk. Stay right there, he said. I did. I actually don't think I would have moved if he asked me to. I looked around the street and realized that there was no one else on this street. I was a 21-year-old woman alone in the street. I gripped my car keys. A few minutes later, a man my sugar daddy asks me for weird favors. A few minutes later, the man came back out carrying a cardboard box. It was about the size of a shoebox, but strained and damp in the corners. Can you open your car? He asked. I opened the trunk, not wanting that inside of my car seat, and he set it in. All right, there you go, he said. Thanks, I replied. I walked around to the driver's side of the car and opened the door. Oh, and one more thing, he said. I looked at him. Watch out, he said. I didn't reply. I blasted my music as I drove to Jack's house, hoping it would drown out my anxiety. It didn't. I parked my car in the driveway and stayed inside of the car, admiring the house. It was a huge house, with stone pillars on the front porch and the greenest grass I had ever seen in my life. I turned the car off and got out. I grabbed the package and walked to the front door, getting the key from where he said it would be. Once I opened the door, I stepped in, closing it behind me. I thought about what he had said, about locking the door when I got inside. I thought that was a little overboard, but as I stared at the closed door, something made me reach out and lock it. I walked inside, my feet cushioned by the thick maroon carpet, and I admired the inside of the house. All of the furniture was wood and looked incredibly expensive. I would probably finish school a dozen times with the money that it took to furnish this place. I set the package down on the coffee table, and as I walked back to the door, I heard a phone ringing from somewhere inside of the house. I froze. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. I took it out to look. Don't answer any calls that aren't from Marvin. I put the phone back and followed the sound of the phone ringing, poking my head into a few different rooms before I found the main office. I walked over to the desk and looked at the caller ID. Incoming call from Jack. That was odd. I grabbed my phone to look at the message again. I was starting to get a little bit creeped out and decided I wouldn't answer, just to be safe. I left the house, remembering to lock the door as I left. I've done a few more favors for Jack since then. I drove a BMW to a random park in another city, only to get out and drive a different car back to Jack's house. He had me meet one of his employees at lunch, who then gave me a briefcase to deliver to the first house I had gone to and told me that he would know if I looked inside. On several occasions, he asked me to drive down to the same house and stay with the guy whose name was Julio for a certain amount of time. In total, I've made around $3,500. Most recently, Jack asked me to stay in his house overnight. I woke up to a text message from him. I need you to spend the night at my house. I haven't ever seen him in person, but I talked to him on the phone a few times. He proceeded to tell me that he would pay me $1,000 to spend the night at his house, provided that I follow a few rules. I drove to his house that evening. The driveway was empty as normal, but the porch light was on. I walked up, unlocked the door, went inside, then locked it again. Everything in the house looked the same. Jack had told me over the phone that he would leave the list of rules on the dining room table. I set all of my stuff down in the living room. My bags looked like garbage compared to the fancy furniture in there. I wandered into the kitchen and then in the dining room. Sure enough, there was a piece of paper on the wooden table, held down by an empty glass. Lock the door when you come in. Only answer calls for Marvin. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they are, after 10 p.m. If the door to the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If it's closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. The gardener comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I'll pay you in the morning. Good night. I made sure to follow all of the rules. To be honest, I was regretting my decision. But seeing as how I was already there and I was getting paid, I decided to stay anyway. I figured as long as I followed the rules, I'd be pretty fine. Still, it felt a little odd. What was this, a haunted house? Nevertheless, I lounged around for a few hours, as I was planning to go to sleep around 9, since that was the time all the weird shit began. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth, using the faucet for the last time before 9. I checked the hallway in the closet, and upon seeing that it was open, I moved my stuff into the library. Daddy asked me for weird favors. I moved my stuff into the library and got ready to sleep on the couch. I locked the doors just in case and laid on the couch. Scrolling through my phone, I hadn't gotten any more messages from Jack, and I started to think up scenarios and reasons as to why he has such strict, particular set of rules for his house. I had dozed off at some point because at exactly 6:10 p.m., I was woken up by the doorbell ringing. I was about to get up and check, but then I remembered the rule. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. I stayed on the couch, trying not to move, paranoid that they would hear even the slightest sound. It's the police. Open up. I didn't move. Hello, it's the police. Open up or we're coming in. I still didn't move, but I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. There was silence for a while after that. Then the doorbell rang again. Hey, it's Jack. Let me in. It sounded like Jack, but still, I didn't get up. He would have a key, wouldn't he? Why would he need me to let him in? This continued for almost a full hour. Different people would ring the doorbell, announcing themselves, and then disappear when I didn't respond. I was finally able to fall asleep, and the gardener never came. When I woke up the next morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. I got up slowly and unlocked the door as quietly as possible, taking my phone with me and walking across the living room into the kitchen. I stopped at the entrance and peered in. It was Jack. He was standing at the front of the stove, stirring something as the coffee machine brewed coffee on the counter behind him. Hey, good morning, he said when he saw me. Hi, I replied, nervous. I hadn't seen him in person before, but he looked exactly like his pictures online. Scrambled eggs, he asked, motioning to the pan with a wooden spoon. Yeah, thanks, I replied, walking over to take the plate from him. I ate my breakfast and drank some coffee in silence. How was it, he asked. It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened, I replied. Cool, he replied. There was an awkwardness in the room. I think I'm gonna go now. I have class. I trailed off. I didn't, but I really wanted to get out of here. Oh no, yeah, sure. I'll talk to you some other time, he replied. I grabbed my stuff and he walked me to my car. I could see him standing in the driveway staring at me as I left. When I got home, I unpacked all of my stuff and noticed I still had the list with me. I sat on my bed and read it again. I felt my body tense up as I realized that I had forgotten something. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget this. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget this. Do not forget this. I stared at the words on the page until they lost meaning. Beside me, my phone buzzed, snapping me back into reality. It was the $1,000 payment. I looked at my phone and then back at the list. Maybe it wasn't an important step. As I was thinking this over, a text from Jack came in. I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week, so you're free from running any more errands for me until then. Just send the payment, go do something fun. I stared at the message and read it again, and once more for good measure. I'm not in town right now. I thought back to this morning and how Jack was in his house, how he gave me breakfast. I'm not in town right now. Within minutes, a new text came, and this time from a number I didn't recognize. Did you forget something? The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was outside of my house. It was followed by another text. Watch out.